But Ruth replied, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." When Naomi realized that Ruth was determined to go with her, she stopped urging her.
Good morning. Good morning. This is now our 9th week of the story. And up until now, we've been talking about God's work to form the nation of Israel. These have been grand, sweeping stories. Creation, the flood, Exodus from Egypt, millions of people wandering in the desert, miraculous victories. Now we come to a story that is very different, the story of Ruth. It's a beautiful story, a pastoral story, and at first it might seem like it's a little bit out of place. We're told that this story happens in the time when the judges were ruling Israel. We talked about this last week. There's a famine in the land. A family chooses to leave Bethlehem and head to Moab, where there's food. Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their sons, Mahlon and Chilion. They arrive in Moab, and not long after that, Elimelech dies. Now Naomi's left with her sons and their wives, who are Moabite women. 10 years later, both of Naomi's sons pass away as well. And now she has a choice to make. She decides to return to Bethlehem, where the famine has thankfully ended. Naomi tells her daughters-in-law, Orpah and Ruth, to return to their mother's houses so that maybe they can remarry and have a life. Orpah, weeping, kisses her mother-in-law and goes back home. This is the traditional, logical choice, and in the story there's nothing negative said about this choice. Ruth, however, refuses to leave her mother-in-law's side. She gives a beautiful speech. It's on page 122 in the story. She says, "Don't urge me to leave you or to turn back from you. Where you go, I will go, and where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. May the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if even death separates you and me." In Hebrew, the phrase that's translated, "Your people will be my people, and your God, my God," can actually be translated as, "Your people are my people, and your God is my God." Ruth has already made her choice. She's going to leave her father and her mother and her country. So Naomi and Ruth continue on to Bethlehem. In Bethlehem, it's the time of the barley harvest, and Naomi and Ruth have no men to provide for them. So Ruth goes out to glean in the fields behind the workers. This is according to a law in Leviticus, and this stated that landowners couldn't strip their fields bare. They had to leave something, and this was a way to provide for the poor. It was a form of charity. Ruth happens to end up at a field that's owned by a relative of Naomi's dead husband. This relative's name is Boaz. And he notices this foreign woman who's gleaning in his fields. He's heard of Ruth's loyalty to Naomi. So he tells Ruth to stay and gather in his fields throughout the barley harvest and then the wheat harvest as well. He gives her special privileges. He protects her. Now Naomi realizes that her and Ruth's situation is not going to be sustainable. What's revealed later in the story is that Naomi has actually gotten to the point where she's going to sell off her dead husband's property. But Boaz's attention to Ruth and his close relationship to Naomi gives her an idea. And Naomi comes up with a plan. She tells Ruth to get herself all spruced up one night. And she goes to the threshing floor. Boaz is going to be spending the night on the threshing floor, protecting his harvest. So once Boaz gets himself all settled in for the night, Ruth goes and lays down at his feet. There's some debate about what happens next. But this part of the story is really full of innuendo, which we would understand if we spoke Hebrew. Since I'm pretty sure most of us don't speak Hebrew, I will just say that a biblical understanding developed between Boaz and Ruth. In the morning, Boaz sends Ruth home to Naomi with a promise. He goes through all the legal proceedings necessary to buy this property that Naomi is selling. This comes with the right to marry Ruth. Everyone rejoices when Boaz and Ruth are married and they have a son named Obed. Naomi has a grandson to care for and to carry on the family name. This is the happy ending of a beautiful story. But what are we supposed to see in this story? Well, once you start looking at this story, there's actually a lot to it, and we could do a whole series on this one little book of the Bible. But today, I want you to look at the choices that were made in this story. Each character makes choices, and these choices become part of God's story. Elimelech and Naomi make the choice to leave Bethlehem out of necessity. They have to survive. Naomi makes the choice to return to Bethlehem because it feels like the best option. Orpah chooses to do the logical, traditional thing in returning to her mother's household. Ruth's choice is the most poetic, pledging loyalty to Naomi and to God. Boaz chooses to redeem Ruth and Naomi, taking his place in God's story. We see the coincidences in the story, the careful unfolding, and the very end of the story reveals God's ultimate purpose. All these choices that have been made must lead somewhere. The last verses of the book of Ruth reveal that her son, Obed, is the grandfather of David. Ruth the Moabite is the great-grandmother of the greatest king in the history of Israel. Now I want you to take a look at the first chapter of Matthew. This is a reading that I heard over and over growing up around Christmas time, and I always thought it was the most boring scripture reading of the year. But now, I see it as a wonderful affirmation of the power of our choices. Verses 1 through 6. An account of the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, and Isaac the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Judah and his brothers, and Judah the father of Perez and Zerah by Tamar, and Perez the father of Hezron, and Hezron the father of Aram, and Aram the father of Amminadab, and Amminadab the father of Nahshon, and Nahshon the father of Salmon, and Salmon the father of Boaz by Rahab, and Boaz the father of Obed by Ruth, and Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. Out of all of those names, I want to point out that there are 3 women mentioned. In the whole genealogy, which goes on quite a bit, there are 4 women named. The 3 I just mentioned, and then Mary, the mother of Jesus. Each of these women made a radical choice. Tamar acted radically to make sure that she would have a son. Rahab was a prostitute who protected 2 of Joshua's spies when they were scouting in Jericho. And Ruth, who chose to leave her family and her country, following Naomi and her God. The choices made in the book of Ruth, choices made by ordinary people like you and me, these choices were used in God's story to lead to the salvation of the world. Choices made by Naomi, Ruth, and Boaz led directly to the birth of Jesus Christ. Would you pray with me? Almighty God, we can never know all the consequences of our choices, but you do. Align our hearts with yours so that our decisions will help you to tell your story. In the name of Jesus Christ, Son of David. Amen.
Amen.